we're going to go ahead and work on InDesign Classroom in a Book Chapter 3, which is all about how to set up a document and work with individual pages. We're going to break this one into two parts. One is going to be about how to set up the master, and one is going to be about how to actually populate that master once you have it. I've already gone ahead and gone to Canvas and downloaded the Classroom in a Book Chapter 3. I'm going to go ahead and extract it like we always do. This should get to be pretty old hat pretty soon. In this chapter, we're going to create a newsletter. Now, it's really important to understand how to work with masters versus work with pages. Masters allow us to have elements that appear on every single page, so we don't have to put them in repeatedly. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the end document in InDesign. Now, you'll notice you do not get one that has a start, because this one you're actually going to start from scratch. It'll be the first one. All right, so in this one we can see we've got a 8-page document. We have some pages that are different, and we've got a couple of different masters going on. So we're going to learn how to create all those different elements as we go along. One of the first things we're going to do is create a document's preset. So say this is something you create all the time. You have to do a newsletter every week. Instead of having to go through and set up the document every time, we can do it once and create it as a preset. So we're going to go up to File. We're going to Document Preset, and we're going to go to Define. We're going to create a new one. We're going to call it Newsletter. Our intent is to have it printed. We want it to have 8 pages. We want it to start on page 1. We want facing pages, which means we want it set up like a book. We're going to go ahead and look down here. We want 1 column. Is what they have here, but we're going to go ahead and bump it up to 3. So it automatically creates 3 columns on each page. Now right here we have this little chain. This is a make all settings the same icon. We want to make sure that they are all different. So we're going to go ahead and turn that off so we get the little slash through it. So the top we're going to do 6p. Now P means picas or points. So we're not measuring in inches, we're measuring in picas or points. And then we want 4p for all the others. You can either use the up arrows or you can go ahead and type it in. Alright, so for bleed and slug. Bleed is how much space outside you need on the page in order to create a full bleed, to make the pictures go all the way to the edge. The printers actually print over the edges and cut it down. It's not that they print, their printers aren't not like what we have here, you know, your standard desktop printer. Alright, so for the bleed and slug, if you don't see it, go ahead and hit the down arrow. We do want them all to be the same. Now the book's telling you to put in 0.125. Now notice, because it's measuring in picas, or points, it automatically converted that 0.125 to the correct measurement in picas. So you put it in inches, but it actually converted it for you. Alright, so that's all we need for that. Let's go ahead and say OK. And I already did this once, so I'm going to call my newsletter A. So we'll say OK. So now I'm going to go ahead and create a new document based on that preset. Now you don't have to create a preset every time. It's just a practice of getting into to see that you don't have to go through the same thing over and over and over again. So I'm going to go to File, I'm going to go to New, and I'm going to Document. Now I'm going to go to Saved, which is where my presets are hidden. Mine's called Newsletter A. And I'm going to say Create. Now I'm going to go ahead and look at my pages over here on the right hand side, and you'll see that my document has 8 pages, is what we told it to do. Each page has 3 columns. We can tell by looking at the guides. If you're not seeing the guides, make sure you're up here on normal mode, not on preview. If you see preview, you won't see anything at all. So go ahead and make sure you're on normal mode. We can see that each of these has got what's called a master applied. So if we look here at the top, we have a none master, we have an A master. Anything that we put on the A master is automatically going to apply to any of these pages that has an A up in the corner. We know what page number we're on because we can see right down here below, and if you double click on it, you can get those individual pages, or you can double click on the page itself to jump between pages in the document. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is play with our master a little bit. So I'm going to make sure I'm up here at the master. The trick when working with masters is to make sure that anything you put on the master is going to appear on every single page. Frequently students will start designing on the master and then have their designs appear on every page. It makes them a little crazy. Alright, so one of the first things we want to do is go to View, and let's go Fit Spread in Window so we can actually see both pages. If this panel is taking up too much room, you can always squish it down so you can see both pages. What we're going to do is create some guides. Guides are the non-printing lines that help us line things up, makes it a lot easier to create your spreads. So we're going to go ahead to Layout, we're going to go to Create Guides. For the rows, we're going to say let's go ahead and do 4 rows. And we don't want a gutter. The gutter is how much space is between those columns. So right now we see we've got a little bit of a gutter in between. For columns, which is here, I'm going to put 2, and I want 0 in my gutter again. We want to fit our guides to the margins, so within the usable space that we've created, not within the page. If we do it to the page, it'll do to the whole 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. And we're going to put OK. So now, if we look at our guides, we have 4 rows, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now notice this one and this one look bigger. They're not actually bigger. It's conforming to this guide right here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 2 columns here. Alright, so now we can grab a couple of other guides. How else can we do this? We can do this a couple of different ways. We go to Window, we go to Object and Layout, and we want Transform. Now notice Transform, no matter where I move my arrow, my selection tool, it's telling me where on the page I am with those X and Y coordinates. So we want to make a guide that goes across both pages. In order to do this, we have to push Control or Command and put our pointer at the top of the ruler. We're going to do a click, and holding Control, we're going to go ahead and pull that down. We want to pull it down to 2.6. This is where our header goes. Now you can notice, you can look at your transform controls and see where that is, or you can look up at the top. I don't have it quite right, I've got it 10p28, but what I can do is go here into my transform controls and do 10p6, and it's going to slide that to exactly where I need it to be. So you don't have to be exactly perfect. Alright, let's go ahead and drag 2 more from the ruler. Go ahead and grab that control, hold down, and we're going to go to 5p. And I'm getting it pretty close, but not exact, so I'm going to go ahead and bump that up to 5. And I'm going to go ahead and drag one down to 63. And you'll notice that it does match these numbers down here at the bottom. So I've got one of 63. Now, note, because I did not hold Control, I only have the guide over one page. Go ahead and it's selected, it's dark blue, I'm going to hit Delete, and hit Control, hold down, and grab that guide at 63. And now you'll notice the dark blue line is over both of those. It should be over both, it's not. Let's try it one more time. Alright, it's not quite 63, let's adjust it to 63. Alright, so you can do guides that go over single pages, you can go guides that go over your entire spread. Alright, so that'll take you through the horizontal guides. Let's go ahead and add some vertical guides. We want to go ahead and grab one. Now we don't have to worry about holding Control this time because we are only going over one page. We want one at 17.8. So about here-ish. Alright. And you notice that it snapped to that guide that we already had put in place for the column. Alright, we're going to put a second one in at 84p4. So it's way over here on this other page. You'll notice it's pretty much lining up with that other guide that we already have. So it's kind of automatically nudging it to where we have something going on already. Alright, so another thing we can do with InDesign is have the software do a lot of the tricks for us. One of these useful tricks is step and repeat, which means you want something to do it something over and over again, which is something you're going to use when we create our subscription masters. Alright, let's go ahead and go to our Pages palette. We can close Transform for now, use my double arrows. I'm going to go to my Pages palette. I'm going to go ahead and jump to page 6. So I'm going to go ahead and jump onto page 6. Now you'll notice all those guides that were created in the master are available here on page 6. So what we're going to do is we want a guide just for this page. So we're going to grab a guide from the vertical ruler and we want to take it to 3p. So about in here. I'm going to go ahead and adjust that a little bit. I can adjust my 3 here as well since I've closed my transform. Alright, so I've got a 3p there. Now, what I can do is with that one selected, so it's dark blue, I'm going to go to Edit, Step, and Repeat. Which means I want it to mimic what we've already got here. So I want to have 3 of these guides, so I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. And for the horizontal measurement, I want it to go ahead and be 7. And then I push OK. So now you can see it has added the dark blue 1, 2. We've got extra 1, 2, 3 guides right here right now. So what I can do is I can adjust just those guides. If I go to my pasteboard, click and hold, I can select all those guides at one time. So if I click here, you see we've got multiple guides. Because I'm just on page 6 and only have those guides on page 6, I can select just those ones. So I'm going to drag and pull across. Alright. So what we can do is now that we've got them copied and pasted, we want to go ahead and we can adjust and paste those in place from another, from one guide to another, from one page to another. So with them selected, I'm going to go Edit. I'm going to do Copy. I'm going to go down here to page 8. You can see I don't have all those guides. I can go Edit, Paste in place, and now I have those same 3 guides that I have on the other page. So say it's something you only want on a few pages, it's easier to apply to those few pages than it is to create a whole nother master. Since we're not going to use the guides on page 8, I'm going to go ahead and select it by clicking outside, pulling across, and I'm going to go ahead and hit delete, and it'll make that go away. So that's how to create a guide on individual pages. Alright, let's go ahead and back up to our master. We've got to do a few more things up there. One of those things is to create a footer. In your publications, you will be putting footers in, which helps us know what publication we're in, what page we're on, what the date is. So we're going to go ahead and add a footer to our publication. We're going to go ahead and grab our text tool. With our text tool, I'm going to go ahead and scroll in a little bit, Control plus, so I can zoom in and see what you're doing a little bit more. I want to go ahead and make sure my footer falls in this area right here. So with my type tool, I'm going to create a text box. So I'm going to click here at this intersection and pull down, until I go all the way across to this one right over here in the middle. So I'm one column wide. Alright, so now I've got a place to put something. Remember, InDesign won't let you just start typing, it has to have a place to live. So now we want to put in our page number. We're going to go to Type, down here to Insert Special Character. Page numbers are considered a marker, and we want to put the current page number in. Now you'll notice it came in as a letter A. Yes, it is supposed to do that. That's how you know you're on the master. If it came in as a page number, it means you're putting something in on the page itself and you're not in the master. Alright, now we want to add what's called an M space, which is the width of a current font size. So M spaces are nice because instead of putting space, 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 it adjusts with each type font you change. So let's go ahead and go to it's telling me to do it a different way. We can go ahead and right click. We can insert white space and insert M space. So notice how it automatically made that jump without you having to push tab or anything, and it'll adjust according to what you're doing. We're going to type publication name, which is Flora and Fauna of Coast. I spell it right. Notice how I spelled it wrong. Because I have my dynamic spelling right on, it told me right away. And I spelled coastal wrong, so I'm going to right click and fix coastal. So make sure your dynamic spelling is turned on. If your dynamic spelling is not turned on, make sure you go to Edit, Spelling, Dynamic Spelling. There's no reason to have typos as you go. Alright, so now if I click down to page 4, I see it says page 4, Flora Fauna of the Coastal Carolinas. If I jump to 8, it's going to be there. Notice 5 does not have anything because we have not put a footer on that page yet. So let's go ahead and bounce back up to our master. View, Fit, Spread, and Window. So we're back to having both of them side by side. Alright, so now what we can do is we can either do the same process again, draw in another text box, or we can actually duplicate the footer that we've already created. I'm going to go ahead and select that. I'm going to push Alt, and while I'm holding Alt, I'm going to drag it over to this other side. And Alt is going to go ahead and duplicate that for me. Now it doesn't look quite right. So what are some things I can do? We want to go ahead and go to our paragraph setting tools up here at the top. And we want notice it's not there yet. We want to be in our text tool. If we're not in our text tool, we're not going to see it. So notice when we were in our selection tool, it wasn't here. When we switch to the type tool, it is now there, and we want to go ahead and right align this. So it's going to go ahead and right align. Now I don't want my page number to be here. I wanted to have it on the outside. So I'm going to go ahead and click in with my text tool and delete it. I'm going to jump over to End of Carolinas. I'm going to go ahead and right click. We want to insert that white space again, that M space. Now it's not there yet till we actually do something else. So we're going to go ahead and do Type, or Window, Type and Tables. And that'll give us quite a few things. We don't want to do that. We want to go ahead to go to Type, Insert Special Character, Markers, and Current Page Number. And notice now my M space is going to appear. I'm going to go ahead and push Control S and save and make sure that I'm not going to lose what I've got so far. I'm going to call this 03 Newsletter, and I'm going to make sure I put it in my flash drive in my Lesson 3 folder so I don't lose it. Alright, so I always say save as you go along, otherwise you'll be really sad when you lose everything. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and let's rename our master page so we know which one is which. Let's go ahead and make sure we have our pages open. let's go ahead and go to our flyout menu, which is the hamburger patty up here. And we want to choose master options for master A. And instead of calling this master, we're going to call this 3-column layout. So now we've got one called 3-column layout, which makes life pretty easy, so it's pretty easy to understand. You don't have to remember what's what. Alright, let's do a few other things. Let's add some placeholders for text for our publication. We're going to go ahead and grab that text tool. We're still on our master. I'm going to go ahead and go to my left-hand page. I'm going to grab my type tool, and I'm going to draw a text box that goes from this column to column through, so it's 2 columns wide. So I'm going to right-click and hold and drag it down to the bottom of that guide right there. So now I've got a text box that will take up this whole thing. So I'm going to need one on the right side as well. So I'm going to go ahead and repeat that. I'm going to grab my text, grab and hold, and drag it down. Now if I miss and say, oh, I don't like it there, I can always adjust with my selection tool. I can grab it so I get the bars and resize it. Notice how it automatically starts giving you the smart guides to tell you, hey, you're snapping to, you're making it exactly the same as everything else. So look at all those arrows and smart guides as you go along. Alright, now we're going to need some placeholders for some text images. I'm going to go ahead and push Control S and save. I'm going to go ahead and grab my rectangle frame over on the left hand side. I'm going to go ahead and put a placeholder in for an image right here. So it's in my 3rd column, top right of my page. Click and hold, drag down, so it fills that spot right there. Now notice how easy the guides made that to do. I know that it's a graphic because it's got this X in it. Let's go ahead and do the same for the right hand page. So it's snapped to it. It's even with the other one. I'm going to say, good, let's go. Alright, so now we're going to create another master for this document. I'm going to go ahead and push save. Sometimes you'll have multiple pages within, or styles of pages within your publication, so you'll want to have multiple different types of masters. So what are the first things we're going to do is we're going to go to our Pages flyout menu, and we want New Master. This one is going to be called 2-column layout. So we want to base it on the previous master. So it's called making a parent master. So this one will be a child. So any changes we make to the parent will automatically fly down to the child ones as well, which makes life a little bit easier. Okay, so we're going to say OK. We want to go up to Layout. We want to go to Margins and Columns. And on this one, we want 2 columns. And we want, we're not going to mess with the gutter on this one. And so we're going to say, okay, so now look at my master. Now we have 2 columns, 1, 2, whereas on A, we have 1, 2, 3. So now I've got 2 different masters I can apply to different pages. So sometimes we have things on one master that we don't necessarily want on the other master. So we need to what's called override it. So maybe on our 2-column master, we don't necessarily want to have some of these graphic frames built in that we've already got. Now you notice I can click all day long and it's not going to do me any good because it's an item on the master. So I need to override it. In order to override it, I need to Control Shift and click. Then I can get the bars to come around and I can hit delete or backspace. And I'm going to go ahead and Shift Control click to get rid of it on this page as well. So that's how we move things off a master. Otherwise you will click all day and never get anywhere. Alright, so there's a few more things we need to do. We need to modify our parent master, which is here. column A. And rather than having to redo something over and over again, this lesson has given us what's called a snippet. So a little bit of pre-designed element so we can just drop it in. So we're going to go ahead and go to File and Place. It's about halfway down. We want to go into our lesson 3. Now it's going to be in the one called Links. And we want to find snippet 1. And OK. And notice I've got a preloaded cursor. It's going to say, OK, where do you want me to put it? I'm going to go ahead and line it up with those red lead lines. And click. And now it's automatically dropped in my top header information. It's given me a little logo here for flora and fauna, and it made it really, really easy. Alright, so what else can we do? We can decide, okay, I want my left-hand page not to be blue, I want it to be green. So I'm going to go ahead, go up here to my fill on the control panel, click, and I'm going to choose green. So now, if I go down and look at my page 6, I've got a green, I've got a blue, I've got a 3-column master. I've got every page, now I've got that flora and fauna logo appearing here at the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and push save, and that's how we create the master. In the next lesson, we'll go ahead and talk about how to apply the information that we've just created.